report.
I'm just pleased to welcome Ron Hyatt with us today. He's here. He's been serving on the school calendar advisory, the advisory committee, and he's been very faithful and a dependable attendee. And he is assisting Ms. Holman today, and so he's going to do the student report later. But I wanted, since Ron's not typically with us, I wanted the rest of the committee to know his name and also the good work that he's been doing. So thank you, Ron, for stepping in, and we're looking forward to your report. I just want to remind everyone that there's a lot of very exciting things going on across the district as we're anxiously awaiting with everybody else for spring to arrive. But we have a special performance this Friday of the African Arts Festival, and our chorus will be singing, and they'll be performing as well. There's work that they'll be doing with the primary school, and throughout the month they've been showing artwork out of the museum there in Clinton. So it's been a really wonderful, enriching experience for our students, and it's we'd like to invite everybody out this Friday at 7 o'clock for that performance. The Music-Aiders are promoting and sponsoring that event, and there is a fee for entry. I think adults are $5 and students and seniors are $3, but there's a $5 family max as well, and children under 12 are free. And of course that money will go to the Music-Aiders, and they do such good work in support of our schools. So please come out and join us for a very enjoyable evening. And I know we have a joint meeting going on today with the calendar advisory. As superintendent, I'd just like to express my appreciation to all the members of the advisory who have worked so diligently over the last several months. We've met several times during the month and accomplished a lot of work, and it was very rewarding to work with everybody, and I appreciate their involvement and their giving of their time and talents to our schools, so thank you. There is the rescheduling of the Volunteer Appreciation Night, and we'll get that invitation to you. I think the snow stopped us last time, and that's being put on by the town, and certainly the schools benefit from all those wonderful volunteers that are there to support our students and our schools so much. So short report for tonight. Everybody's really focused on being in the third term of school and getting ready, of course, for those state assessments. Not that we don't do that every day, but those initial testing dates are looming, although they're a little further down the road now because the state did indeed postpone some of those assessments, all of those assessments, because of the state being hit so heavily and so many losses of school days. So that's my report for this afternoon, or this evening, and I thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our student report. Do you mind talking into the microphone? If Brendan can just point it towards you, that would be great. Thanks.
So a few things that went on at the high school this week was we had a blood drive yesterday. I think there was a lot of participation in that. We have the annual SAD dodgeball tournament coming up on Friday. We had spring sports sign-up night last night. Looking forward to getting into that when the snow melts finally, with baseball, track, and lacrosse. We have the 3-on-3 basketball tournament coming up, and some discussion about at student council and student advisory council was of changing out homeroom for advisory in high school. So that was going through the school, and kids were debating on that, whether they would like it or not, so that was interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Mackin, School Building Committee?
The construction meeting 27 took place this morning. We went over our schedule. The area that I had talked at a previous meeting about some issues of delays due to the, unforeseen horrible weather that we've been having, really is surrounding our ability to prep pour and cure the second floor slab on deck because of the water coming through from melting snow on the roof. It's not possible until we get the area dry to do that. So that's the area that's of concern, but in speaking with Shawmut representatives today, they don't think that it's time yet to think about, whether we need to do some kind of a recovery plan. They think that they can make that up.
Okay.
Because there are other areas that are continuing to remain completely on schedule. I was amazed to see when I drove in today the amount of progress that they had made on the steel in a 1 week period of time. About half of Area D, which is the middle school wing, is now up. And that they actually expect that major piece of the steel to be completed and to demobilize the crane by the end of next week.
Wow.
Not to say that the steel will be completely done. There's plenty of other steel work needed, and that would probably take us towards the end of April. They are projecting the pouring of the roof slab next week. We're expecting next week the roof materials to be on site, starting with the paper and the membrane. Other items that we discussed, Mr. Londa has been looking at our ability to add solar to the building, and he did meet with a contractor, and it does look like what we can do is about a 300 kilowatt solar between all four roofs. That would be the pitched roofs and the flat roofs. So they're going to be continuing to work on that. We have some lead time on that, so it's not that we're bumping up against any critical timeframes yet on that. So he is working. They'll be preparing a spec for that to get an idea of what the cost would be.
Okay.
And the way we would handle that is to look at our owner's contingency for that. And finally, we discussed again that the topping off ceremony that we're hoping to happen after the April break, and that we're looking to have all of the students involved in it. They've actually identified two of the final girders that are actually part of the elevator assembly, so that one will be in the middle school wing and one will be in the high school wing. They'll be painted. They won't, and the students will have the opportunity to sign those before they're put in place. And as the steelworkers' tradition is, they'll put a fir tree at the top of the building.
So when you're talking about the schedule, you mean they don't expect they need to, at this time, work on Saturdays or work
Correct.
beyond 5 o'clock in the 7
Correct.
o'clock? Right.
Correct.
Okay, good.
5
So
o'clock.
if we do change any of that, we'll have to let all the abutters know?
Correct. And I can report, one of the things that we get a report on every week from Rob Alger, who's the main contact on the site for the abutters, and we've heard literally nothing from the abutters in months,
Okay,
which tells us that we're not making any trouble for their lives.
okay, great. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. So our first item of new business is the Calendar Advisory Committee start time presentation and final report. Dr. Asher?
Colleen.
Colleen?
Dr. Asher is going to go through his report. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who was who served on that committee. Some of them are here. We had myself and Heather Shroka, Amy Powers as a representative from the Turkey Hill School Advisory. She was also our secretary, so diligently kept all of our minutes. Amanda Waltz was a parent at large. Brandon Kibbe was the rep from the primary school advisory council. Lou Betancourt was a parent at large. Katie McGuire was the representative from the LHS School Advisory. We had Dr. Asher as our rep from the Wellness Advisory, and Ron Hyatt was our high school student. So I just wanted to thank everybody. We really did have a large number of meetings in a pretty short amount of time, and they often went well after 9 o'clock, and everyone was still willing to discuss and work, and so it was really a good experience and a lot of hard work. So now Dr. Asher is going to go through his presentation on the effects of school start time.
Yes.
You can take that
You
with
can
you if
take
you
it
want to
off.
walk around with it. It's up to you.
I'm sorry? I can well, I thank the committee for allowing us to debate all this, and I have a particular interest in this. As some of you know, I've been pushing for this since 2002, and the need for making this change is strong, and the opportunity couldn't be better. So to be able to present this to you guys tonight is quite an honor. So I'm going to, is there somebody going to change this? You're going to change slides, okay. I'm talking about the effects of sleep and start times on our students. Try this experiment. Set your alarm for 3 o'clock every morning, 5 days a week. Get up, dress, travel, and report to work in top performance level at 5 a.m. Does this sound inviting? Will I see your best personality on display, especially by Thursday or Friday? Probably not. Next. But this, although it seems unusual, this is exactly what we're asking our teenagers to do every day during school year, as long as they're operating under early school start times. A little background so that you understand the importance of what I'm talking about. I'm not going to make you a sleep specialist, but I need you to understand a few things. There are 5 stages to sleep, 4 stages plus REM. The first stage is when we get drowsy and our brain is making alpha and beta waves, if you had an EEG to control things, to measure things. And then you slip into unconsciousness, and then in stage 3, you're very motionless, but you're easily aroused. Then you get into stage 4, which is deep sleep, very difficult to arouse. And it's during stage 4 that you go back and forth between stage 4 and REM, which is when you're dreaming. Rapid eye movement sleep is when you're dreaming. And stage 4 and REM sleep are particularly important to learning. Unfortunately, they occur in the last half of the night. Next slide, please. We all have circadian rhythms. And it's about a 25-hour cycle with 16 to 18 hours waking and 6 to 8 hours sleeping. In teenagers, it's more to the 8+ time. And any alteration in this will screw up our mental efficiency, our mood, and our safety. We've all heard of problems in the trucking industry, in the atomic energy industry, about sleep deprivation and the effect on accuracy and safety. Our bodies function best when our circadian rhythm is not disturbed frequently. Stage 2 and REM occurred in the last half of our sleep, and they're directly connected to our physical and our mental performance. Next slide, please. Now a little bit about learning, because once you know a little bit about learning and put it with sleep, you realize the crisis we're facing. There are 3 stages of learning. There's so-called procedural learning, which is where you perform behavioral tasks unconsciously. There's declarative learning, which is just straight memorization, which we all have to do at times. And then there's the cognitive procedural, which is where we apply what we've memorized and unconsciously performed into a completed task that proves we know what we're doing. Next slide. Unfortunately, most of stage 2 and REM sleep occurs during the last half of the night. REM deprivation, that's dreaming deprivation, specifically impairs the declarative and procedural cognitive types. Those were the second and third types of sleep learning, and also affects memory retention and recall. Stage 2 deprivation specifically affects motor task learning. Next slide, please. So, sleep deprivation dramatically impacts declarative and procedural cognitive learning, which is the second and third stage of getting your act together. Getting up early leads to cumulative sleep deprivation, specifically deprivation of stage 2 and REM. Adolescents frequently show up to school fatigued, irritable, and sluggish. Next slide. And I'm sure everybody has seen that. Back in 2000, Minneapolis high schools started the wave by moving their start times to 8:40. They found that students were more alert in class, they were more motivated, the staff noted better benefits, the teachers' morale went up, and even 14 years later, those schools still remain on this later start schedule. And then there's been a building literature in sleep medicine about these effects, and it finally the American Academy of Pediatricians, American Academy of Pediatrics, this past August finally made a position statement. I'm going to read this. The American Academy of Pediatrics, and this is a quote, strongly supports the efforts of all school districts to optimize sleep in students and urges high schools and middle schools to aim for start times that allow students the opportunity to achieve optimal sleep levels, which is 8.5 to 9.5 hours, and to improve physical, that is, for example, obesity, mental, lower rates of depression and anxiety, health, safety, drowsy driving, crashes, etc., academic performance, and quality of life. The Academy of Pediatrics doesn't make position statements very much. They made one on concussions, and they made one on car seats, and I mean, they don't make them very often, but when they make them, it's because it's a huge base of data to support that recommendation. Next slide. So what is the impact of chronic sleep loss in adolescents? Physical health, there's increased obesity and metabolic dysfunction, and that's been well shown. There's increased cardiovascular morbidity, high blood pressures, even strokes. And the one that is the most impressive and hits home for all of us is increased motor vehicle accidents, so-called drowsy driving. For example, they did a study in Virginia Beach and adjacent Chesapeake after Chesapeake changed to a late start time and Virginia Beach didn't. Those are two cities that are right next to each other, and there was 41% fewer automobile accidents in Chesapeake among adolescents in the next year or two than there were in the students in Virginia Beach that didn't change. A phenomenal observation that nobody had actually thought about when they were talking about school times. There's also very documented increased use of caffeine and non-medical use of stimulant medications to try and be awake when you get to your first period. And overall, because the kids are tired, there are lower levels of physical activity during the day because they're starting off behind the 8 ball and can't get their act together. Next slide. In terms of mental health, there's clearly data that shows increased anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, loss of self-esteem, etc., because you just can't succeed. There's decreased impulse control and self-regulation with lack of sleep. There's emotional dysregulation, more mood swings and things like that. And we've all seen that in our teenagers. There's a decrease in their positive affect, more negativity. There's decreased motivation because they're tired all the time. And therefore increased vulnerability to stress. Next slide. In terms of academics and school performance, and this has been well studied both in the sleep literature and in the academic literature, cognitive deficits, especially with more complex tasks, impairments of executive function, that is working memory, organization, time management, staying with a sustained effort in a task. There's impairments in attention and memory. There's deficits in abstract thinking and verbal creativity, decreased performance efficiency and output, lower academic achievement, much poorer school attendance, and increased dropout rates. And these have been compared in schools that have done it versus those that haven't. The literature is pretty thorough on this. Next slide. There was a quote that I thought was relevant that I put in here. Framing school start times as a public health issue is a new lens through which to look at this debate. Having pediatricians to be an expert voice and advocate adds new emphasis to the task. It squarely shifts the school start time conversation from being framed as an education issue to being framed as an education and health issue. That emphasis, I'll take the disclaimer, that was mine, which broadens the spectrum of stakeholders and experts that are called upon to get involved in the work of making this change. Next slide. Next slide. So after a lot of discussion, our committee, with the full support of the Wellness Advisory Committee, I might add, made this following recommendation. The recommendation from the advisory committee is that when the new school opens in 2016, for the health of our adolescent students, that's my emphasis, to establish an 8:30 start time for grades 6 through 12, and when fields are completed so that we have lighted fields to allow the next step, we move to a 9 a.m. start time for grades 6 through 12. Next slide. Obviously, there are a lot of next steps to put this together, because making this decision, it's like everything else. When you decide to do something that's critically important, it impacts the way we used to do things. And so we need to look at, what do we need to do? These are some of the things that our committee came up with. We certainly need extended discussions with school councils, public forums, neighborhoods, research options for athletics until the fields are completed, because there are still going to be some lighting issues. And we need research on the transportation options and transportation costs. Well, should we go to one run? Everybody start later. Should we do 2 runs, elementary first, just flipping them, elementary first and middle and high school second? Those are decisions the school committee obviously is going to have to wrestle with. But those are some of the things we came up with. I'm sure there's 100 others, because everybody's going to be impacted by this. But again, it's not about us. It's about the kids. School calendar recommendations. Colleen, you want to do this part? Because this was earlier in the committee. Thank you. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had already presented to the committee a list of some suggested guidelines for how to begin putting the calendar together every year. Just as something that could be used in September, just kind of go through and come up with a template. So we didn't change any of that. This is what we had already, you're understanding that the students need to go 180 days. The teacher's contract is 183 days. We need to have the 5 snow days built into the calendar. However, we make up however many snow days we should have beyond that 5. The state requirement that the school year finish no later than June 30th. And then our recommendation here was to maintain as many full 5-day weeks as possible to maximize continuity of instruction. So that's just relative to, when half days fall or professional development days, if possible, we cannot have interrupted weeks, if it's not necessary. So these, and then we have then we had, the next slide is just basically the days that, are traditional no school days, that they're state holidays or federal holidays, and we don't go to school on those days. And the suggestions for starting the week before Labor Day with a 3-day week for students, giving the teachers the opportunity for professional development on Monday and Tuesday. There was a lot of discussion over that, and it seems that the faculty likes the sort of rollout of the year with 3 days and then 4 days the following week. And I think, you know, a lot of the parents like that. Some wanted to go after Labor Day, but, you know, it seemed like there was a lot of support for that. So we suggested that that sort of be the way to start the calendar every year.
And more the 3
And-
days. This year we had the 2 days.
Right, this year we had the 2 days, which was a different situation. So the suggestion was that it be at least 3 days that, prior to Labor Day,
Yeah.
rather than the 2 days. And then the other suggestions on the next slide were, we put in about the third professional development day being a Tuesday after Columbus Day to make a 4-day weekend, but that, we understand, that's just a guideline. There could be reasons to change that depending on who is coming for professional development or when, you know, the staff may need something, you know, later in the year. But that was a suggestion to put in that 4-day weekend and minimize like, having another week sometime be broken into a 4-day week. Thanksgiving break, you know, pretty traditional with Thanksgiving Day and Friday. Winter break, of course, we're recommending that it's December 24th through January 1st, but everybody understands that it sort of depends on what days of the week those holidays fall on, how that can be managed. So that will depend year to year how that works out. But the suggestion was to try to keep it, you know, to that December 24th through January 1st. February break, the suggestion was to try to go to that shortened February break, which would just be the 4 days, the Monday and Tuesday, which we are actually doing next year, but the suggestion was to look at that going forward. Keeping April break as it has been with the Patriots Day week, but we have added in that there's a lot of discussion from the state level of going to a 1 March break instead of the February and the April breaks. So we, you know, wanted to put in that this be looked at as the state, you know, progresses. You know, there's concern over how you have that 1 week in March when there's MCAS and how that interrupts the testing on either side of that. But, you know, should the state adjust the, you know, assessment schedule or, you know, whatever. This is just, we think it should be looked at probably on a yearly basis to see if it still makes sense to stick with that April break at Patriots Day or at some point to go to a March break. And then the other thing we were suggesting to the school committee is that annually we engage the school councils in the review of the proposed calendar. So we're hoping that, you know, the thought here is that having these guidelines would make it easier for, you know, the superintendent's office or someone to put together a calendar template early in the year, and then have the internal calendar committee and all 3 of the school councils, who are comprised of teachers and parents, administrators, have them just look at the calendar and make suggestions prior to it coming to the school committee. So the school committee will, of course, have the final say, but just as another way to get some more eyes on it and some more feedback prior to the school committee voting on the calendar, and then having it sort of be out in public for a little bit longer to get some more feedback from the public as well. And I think that's that. Do you have questions on what we mean by any of that?
Just more of a statement. So at this point, you're not making a formal recommendation that we pursue a single march.
No, no, not at all. We were just suggesting that it be looked at as the state, you know, as it keeps coming out from the state, to look at it and see how things change, whether it makes sense or not.
Okay, is that the last slide?
Yep,
Okay.
that's it.
So thank you. I think it's all good work. I think what we should do now, and I, you know, ask you to indulge me, it's not really on the agenda, but we can do it as part of this action, is to appoint a subcommittee of the school committee to deal with the items we need to deal with in order to adjust the school start time. Right, I don't want to let that drop on the
Right.
floor. But I think we need to move, so, that's my recommendation, is that we appoint 2
Absolutely.
members of the school committee as a subcommittee to start putting together what the process would be for engaging all the various and sundry people we need to talk to get the information we need so that we can bring a recommendation to the committee.
I would like to add that the advisory committee did have a meeting with, we had the administrators from each building. We had Mrs. Perry from Extended Day. We had Carrie Ford
Right.
representing the nurses. We had the athletic director, Mr. McAuliffe.
But we need to do the actual
had
work of coming out, what's the plan
Right.
for how are we going to deal with athletics? How are we going to do the process?
Absolutely.
We
I
need to
just
get
wanted
into
to
the
make the point that we
nitty-gritty.
did meet
Yeah.
with them, and everyone is beginning. So, yes, we can,
But if
we
we're
should
gonna
have
do
a
this-
subcommittee to go forward on it. but-
Right, if we're going to do this when school starts
Yeah, a year.
in
from
September of 2016, we need to move now.
Right.
We can't wait until next year to think about it.
No,
So if we want
absolutely.
to take this opportunity when we're changing everything else around anyway, I think now's the time to get into the details. Is there anyone else have any thoughts on that? Bad idea, terrible idea?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's necessary. There's a lot of work to be done.
Okay. Right. So we can either do that tonight, or we can put it on agenda for a later time to appoint 2 members. What's your preference?
We're all here.
I know,
say
just,
we could-
because it's not on the agenda, I'm
Right. I
asking
mean,
your
if
permission
it's-
to
I
have
think
the
it's
motion.
fine
for
to
it.
do it tonight. Well,
Yep.
All right, is there a motion to, well, who wants to do it?
We can do it since we.
You guys are happy to do it?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
already been through the.
Okay.
And I'm ready to vote on it.
It can only be
on it
2.
too?
Yeah.
That's it. You can have it. You want? You're too busy.
Is there a motion to appoint a school start time subcommittee?
So moved.
And it-
Second.
And it will be Ms. Shapiro and Ms. Soroka. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Dr. Berthium, if I could add, and
Should have asked you for a recommendation.
that's,
I apologize.
no, I just wanted, we know that the bus,
Clarify something.
Yeah.
Can we have other people on the subcommittee?
No, so it's a
Just us two.
subcommittee. You
Yeah,
can
so-
get
okay.
advice from anybody you
Right,
want.
so
or
we'll get the information
And
from
then we'll
everybody
report
else,
back to
and then
you?
we'll report back.
We'll report to the school committee.
Okay.
Your meetings will be public.
Okay,
Right. It's just
Okay.
going to be more agile if there are 2 of you.
that's, okay,
Right. And so we can move quickly, get
Yep.
data.
Absolutely.
okay.
when we were talking about this, I know one of the things that we said is the meeting with the administration and the staff members was very positive and very supportive of this, and we do see the new building as being a great opportunity. Concerns are how to make the transportation work for everyone, and not just assuming it's okay to flip the primary and elementary and have them on an early run. And that's where we started talking, what's the financial impact of doing a single run? And so I've actually already engaged a meeting with our transportation department to sit down and talk about what that might look like, just so we can get an idea about the true feasibility around this, because my position and feeling on it is that we cannot afford to spend a lot more than what we're currently spending, if anything, on transportation, given the budget constraints that we're facing. So if we're able to either figure out a way to save money, or if the committee wants us to consider some additional ways that fees would be assessed, or those kinds of things. But as compelling as this is, to do something that would require another substantial commitment of finances is concerning to me. But I think we can work hard and figure out how to do this without that. But it is going to involve really engaging the community in the conversation.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering to do that. And thank you all. You can hang around, but you can take off if you feel like it.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
Ms. Cole.
formally,
You guys have adjourned, so they're good.
Well, Phyllis has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm wondering what research says about sleep in younger kids. You know, is
it okay? Could you start, are there negative effects for the younger kids if they?
I think we're going to move on, and we can, you can address that with Dr. Asher. I think there were plenty of opportunities to meet with the advisory committee and get those questions answered, but I'd like to get through our agenda tonight. Thanks. Okay, so we need to establish a date for our school budget hearing. Should we do that at one of our normal school committee meetings? We have a few of them coming up.
What is our time constraint in terms of what's the window we're operating under?
Well, we should have it before town meeting. Right, so we don't have any constraints that.
No, just being able to make sure the public notice goes into the paper a week before. So, you know, the FinCom, the presentation to the Finance Committee is tomorrow at 7:45 here in this room.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you'll do your regular briefing to the FinCom tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
And then the hearing traditionally has been held before the town meeting, as Dr. Berthium put out.
Right. So we
And
have,
it's been held in conjunction with a regularly scheduled school committee
Should we be
meeting.
looking at the first,
In
what, is it
April?
April 1st?
Right,
Is that-
that's our televised one in
I
April?
think it would be April 8th, right? Isn't the 28th?
Cannot have a meeting on
Maybe it's
April
the
1st.
April 1st is a
So it would be the
Wednesday.
1st and then the 15th. So,
Yeah. What I'm trying to balance is, you know, the further we're down in the year, the more information we'll actually have. I mean, we've just got House 1 now, and it's problematic, and
right, so our two televised opportunities are the first meeting in April and the meeting in May, which is right immediately before
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
week
town
before.
meeting, which,
so it seems that that's the one that we'd have to go.
April 1st.
That's the sweet spot.
right.
I have town meeting as May 2nd, so the first televised meeting
Oh,
in
it's
May
so- it's
is
an
after
even
that.
after.
Yeah, so
So
that wouldn't even
it would
work.
either have to be April, or we'd have to
Do a
do
special
something
one.
to get televised
Yeah,
another meeting. I
It's
really do think
impossible
it
to get
needs
this
to be
room,
televised.
so.
Yeah, because there's so many meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
So just April 1st then?
April 1st looks like the opportunity. April Fool's Day. What a great
I
time.
know, that's just
It's my
ironic.
anniversary.
Is it really? Really? Congratulations.
I do, that's funny.
But are you sure?
That's what he says all the time.
Does it count? Okay, so when we,
Okay, so at the budget hearing, we're going to have a proposed budget that is consistent with, well, we're going to have a proposed budget. In a perfect world, we would be consistent with the town manager's recommendation. We will have information for the community about what we have to cut, what we can't do in order to achieve that budget level. And so it would be great if parents and community members were attending so they understand what the implications of the budget constraints are on the schools and our ability to meet the needs of our students. Because looking at the numbers right now, it looks pretty grim, is my assessment. So I would really encourage faculty, parents, community members, anybody that's interested in really understanding the school budget and what the implications of the budget are on our ability to teach kids show up on April 1st. Anything else? Oh, it sounded like you had something to.
I think it is important. I think the other thing, I think that although we don't often emphasize it, the drivers that place us in this situation.
Right.
Including, the fact that our state aid formula still isn't what it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And our, despite the headlines have increased in Chapter 78 this year, what that means to us is not as significant as the headlines would lead you to believe.
No, I mean, in short, for people who would like to know, the traditional minimum increase, or the minimum increase we've seen for the past several years per student for Chapter 70 has been $50 a student, I believe. what Governor Baker has proposed is $20 a student, which is 40% of what we've been seeing. That $50 a student was woefully inadequate for addressing the increasing costs, and it did not keep the state current with their share of expenses. And the $20 per student is, offensive, frankly, to me. So there's not good news. And the days of very low increases in health insurance costs seem to have come to an abrupt end this year as well. So we're looking at a dramatic increase, $120,000 approximately, that we're predicting right now over what was budgeted by the town manager, if I'm correct. And that's a very substantial increase, given the rates that she just received. So part of the reason we don't have a budget earlier is because all these numbers come in this late in the game, and we don't know what we're dealing with until we get here. But this year is looking not particularly good. Any other comments on the budget? Okay. So it's time for us, finally, after what seems like a very long time, to ratify our contract with the Lunenburg Education Association. 2 years ago, I think was it 2 years ago? That we signed a memorandum of agreement.
No.
Was it just 1 year ago?
It wasn't even that. It was last fall. So.
It seems like an eternity ago.
It went very smoothly and it was very quick.
It was all painless.
It wasn't that long ago. It
Right.
just seems-
But we had some remaining details that had to be worked out about the teacher evaluation piece that had contractual implications, and the superintendent has been working diligently on that.
That's, along with the members of the LEA, the contract manager, Mr. Tim Normanton, their executive committee, as well as their president, Mrs. Mary Foyle. And it's been really a very positive professional working relationship that we had. We've been really focused on aspects of that educator evaluation model, additional aspects of that. That was a new model that the state had promoted, and that this community, our school community, embraced. We saw some real positive things that were embedded in that model. And this particular contract, we needed some additional time. You did ratify the contract, as did the association in the fall, but part of that said that there were additional components to come, and both of those components have now been ratified by the local association. And with this integrated agreement that I bring to you, which has been signed by the president and the contract manager, it puts the new pieces. There's additional rubrics for the education evaluation of those individuals that aren't necessarily classroom teachers, but are teachers and educators. They're called specialized instructional support personnel, and so there are the performance rubrics that are associated with that are now in Appendix D, which is where the classroom teacher rubrics are. And then we also have added the component of district-determined measures, which provide another way to demonstrate student growth over time for students. And those measures are determined by the district through working in cooperation with teachers and having a guiding committee that would be approving those, and then the information being collected. And then that information is added to the gross measures that come out of any state assessments for those grade levels. So the district-determined measures are part of every teacher's and every educator's evaluation at this point in time, and that appendix that is now contained within this document speaks to how things are approved as being a district-determined measure. As I said before, it It did take some time because it's pretty complex and a work that requires some good thought and deliberation with it. But this is a fully integrated agreement, and as I said, it's ready for you to do the final ratification. We did make one change in the educator evaluation language in Appendix C, and that change was to say, instead of just having a group sit down and talk about what's working, what things might we want to better understand or improve upon or do differently, we've committed to each other as the management, as the administration, and the LEA, and I ask your support in it to do that on an annual basis. And that's an advisory group, basically, that would set down a group from the LEA with the administration and talk about how it's working. And initially, we said we'd do that for the first 3 years of implementation, but we have found that already the work that we've done under that model of getting together to do that collaboration, it's beneficial, and we'd like to just continue that. And so the language for the first 3 years has been withdrawn from that Appendix C, and it says annually now. So recommend approval, final approval of the entire agreement at this time.
Are there any questions or a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with the LEA.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, and thank you, and thanks to the LEA for their hard work in getting this together, because it's clear that teacher evaluation is critical for both the teachers and the district. So we sign in the right-hand column there. I think there are 3 copies here.
Yes, there are. Thank you.
And this goes through July 17, I think, 2017.
And I'd just like to commend the LEA for this process and how well it's worked.
Okay. All right, so now we need to make a minor revision to our calendar for this year because we had a early release day that happened to fall during one of the snowstorms back in February, and so we need to reschedule that early release day. Ms. Collins, do you have a recommendation for us?
Well, we had some good flexibility around this because one of the consultants that was coming in on that particular day, we were very appreciative. They were going to do some training on some new assessment instruments that are required in this area of special education and evaluation. And so we were able to reschedule that without any additional cost, and that will take place in conjunction with the next professional development day, the day before. So that really released us to be able to reschedule this to another time. And after consultation with the administrators and the faculties, we felt that with transition and the transition planning that we've already started and engaged in, as well as our commitment to the curriculum work that was slated for that particular day, also knowing that the end of the school year is a time where at times our buildings have heated up, and we're going to be at the June 22nd now is our final day with the snow days that we've had. Our recommendation is to have that half day of February 13th repositioned on the calendar to the 19th of June, which is the Friday before the final Monday. So the last 2 days of the school year would be half days, both because professional development is going on the 19th, and then the last day is a half day and allows time for the teachers to close out grade books and those kinds of things. So that's our recommendation at this time. We are going to focus on curriculum, and we are going to, continue to work on our transition planning as well during that time.
It sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah, are you going to send out a little robocall?
We will get that all adjusted in the calendar and included in multiple multiple.
We just want to make sure everyone is aware that's happening.
Yeah. I think that call is best put in maybe just a week before it happens,
Yeah.
as opposed to, doing it now. That's probably what you were suggesting.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that it's changed.
Right.
And we can repeat it every time we have a school committee
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
just to
you just
remember
wanna-
that we changed
And I'll
it.
make sure people hear.
Yeah.
And newsletters, and so we have a few more months, but I will put,
Let's do that.
I will put on our calendar to schedule a phone call to parents the week before that, just to remind them of that date coming up.
Have Wendy put it on Facebook too. We can just all put it on Facebook. It's always a good way to get the word out. Yeah.
Better voice on my call.
Aren't you disappointed?
It's a Friday too, anyway.
All right, is there a motion to accept the recommended
moved.
change? And second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have some donations to accept, I believe.
We do. I just wanted to, last committee meeting, we had some more Target donations that had come in for Turkey Hill Middle School. And the primary school also received a donation of over $200 from that particular program. But what I ask our accounting office to do is, those come in that manner, a couple hundred here, 300 there. And I thought it would be helpful for the committee and the public to know that that simple act of saying, yeah, I'd like to, under the Target program, designate this school to receive fundings, has brought into the district, district-wide, $1,684.47. So, that amount of money is very helpful in terms of helping defray costs with regard to field trips and a myriad of things. So those pennies do add up and do make a big difference, and I think is particularly helpful for parents to know that it's not, once again, digging into your wallet. It's in conjunction with purchases you're making, and the Target Foundation provides that. So I encourage anybody that is a Target shopper to, check off the box, shall we say. I also wanted to thank the Lunenburg Cultural Council. I think we mentioned this, but I'm not sure that it fully got on the record before. $1,000 of the over $2,000 that was necessary to have the African Arts Group work with that month-long activity for the primary school. $1,000 of that is being given by the Lunenburg Cultural Council. And then also the Parent Teacher Association helped supported that effort as well. And, they had given $1,000 to each one of the schools for special presentations. And at the primary school, they helped with this particular program a substantial amount, as well as helping with the Tiger presentation. So it really made a very positive impression and difference for the students. And we appreciate those folks. And as I said, the Music-Aiders are sponsoring this performance on Friday, and hope everybody comes out for that as well. So those are where the donations I wanted to call to your attention.
Okay, thank you. We have actually no old business this evening, unless there's something that somebody thought of that we forgot to put on the agenda. Okay. So we're up to public comment. Any public comment from the board? Oh, actually, the one public comment that I would like to personally make is that the town caucus is coming up in a couple of weeks.
16th.
16th.
Monday the
16th.
Monday the 16th.
So if anybody is thinking of school committee, that might be a good time to go to the caucus. I don't know, Brendan, if you have a position on what you're planning to do?
My plan is I will be done at the end of my term.
Okay. And so it will be no one from the, it'll be an open seat. So if anybody's interested, it's a great time to go get the caucus nomination, which makes it much easier to get elected. So I would encourage people to keep that in mind. Any other public comment from the board?
Just to follow up on the town caucus and the open seat, this is an incredibly challenging but exciting time for the district, and I think that if anyone, as a parent or a community member, wants to be a part of it, I think that there's a lot of good stuff to be done.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention again the Boys and Girls Club of Lunenburg, which is an absolutely wonderful resource in the community for elementary and middle schoolers. They serve 120 kids, over 120 kids in total, in a great after-school program that includes, recreation, fitness activities, homework help, mentoring, some social, emotional growth work. Terrific resource for our students that we share in common. They're almost wholly dependent on donations to keep the doors open. They'll be holding an annual event, which is a lot of fun. It's a free family affair called Are You Smarter Than Our Sixth Grader? It's a game show fundraiser. And we have a lot of adult teams that are challenging the sixth graders, and it's always a lot of fun. That will be held on March the 27th, 6:30 at the Lunenburg High School. It will be videoed for airing on our cable access. There are opportunities for sponsoring teams, question categories, the kids, at varying levels of support. I'd encourage you to go on the Boys and Girls Club website and take a look at it if you'd like to help out a really wonderful community organization. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Public comment from the public?
Phyllis Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. I wanted to thank the advisory committee for their great work on the calendar and the start times. I found the presentation tonight really interesting. My one issue is, what does it say about the younger kids? Are we switching problems, or do the younger kids
we haven't yet decided that we're going to switch them. So that's part of the issue. If we can do a single bus run, we don't have to switch the times, and everybody gets to go late. So I'd rather not get people too worried about having the little kids out yet until we think we have to do that.
Well, I actually also appreciated the superintendent's caution that
money is an issue.
Money is a huge issue, and it
yeah.
can't cost any more. So, how do you do that?
Right.
But anyway, I thought
we'll try and get there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I also really like the calendar work on the continuity of trying to get as many whole weeks as you can. That time on learning is so critical, and having the 2 professional days before the start of the school year is brilliant. I think that's perfect. If the Columbus Day, the day after Columbus Day, is too soon, then maybe they could do the February, after the President's Day, the next day do a professional day, because that would be one thing I might think, that having 3 of them all stuck in September and October may not be great. So or you could do it at the end of the school year.
Ways to do things, right?
So I wanted to thank you. I thought it's great work, and it's great to see our kids in such good hands.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, reports. FinCom, tomorrow is the big FinCom reveal for the school budget. Ms. Collins will be
there?
would be great if you could be. I think the school committee's on at 7:45. Yep, here. So that would be useful. School councils, anybody?
Primary school doesn't have another meeting until the 25th.
Okay,
I think Turkey Hill's next week.
okay. And I think you guys just met last week, right? Right before?
Right before the last minute.
Yep. PTO?
We have a meeting on Monday. We had a movie event at the primary school over the weekend, which was pretty successful. And all we did was we had people donate canned goods for the Lions Club.
Yep.
Your father came and picked them. So that was really good. There was a lot of donations for that. That was
Excellent.
nice.
Great.
So, and then they have their PTO's event is the Parents' Night Out. It's March 21st. You can buy tickets online at lunenburgpto.org.
Excellent.
Local band playing, Wheelhouse.
Sure to be a
Good band.
time.
Special embarrassing,
I wonder how they got that
embarrassing guest star as well, apparently. Yeah, again.
Are you gonna sing?
Yeah, I
Ooh,
will be
Brendan
singing.
will be
Yeah.
singing.
Oh, I'm getting tickets.
Now I'm going to go.
It'll be my swan song.
I'm
right?
getting tickets now.
Oh, you see
So
that?
everybody race to get tickets.
Buy
now,
your
Brendan,
tickets
please.
tonight.
Yes,
Sold out last year.
it did. It sold out last year, so.
Yeah.
Good time, good silent auction.
Yeah, and we have new items this year from different places.
It was truly excellent last year.
It was a lot of fun.
really
Really
good
excellent.
Despite the
But despite
The
the
location,
last
yeah.
Yeah, the la-
3 days beforehand, having to relocate from the Harley House to.
I think it ended up
It
better
was a
in the
better
end.
location
And
It's
anyway.
great.
And it's at
It
the
was-
same place in Air, the American Legion.
Yeah, that was
Shirley.
great.
It's gonna be great.
Shirley.
Shirley, it's Shirley, oh, thank you. I always I think they're the same. I know, it's a terrible thing. I'm sorry. Not to offend.
Policy Subcommittee has not met.
Right, we're done.
Capital Planning, you're done, right?
Yes.
For the
I
year?
haven't heard anything else, yeah.
Right. Wellness Advisory?
Meets next Wednesday, the 11th at 3:45 at Turkey Hill.
Okay. PacSal?
Next meeting is Friday, March 20th.
Okay. The Building Reuse Committee, we did suggest that they try and, their meeting was scheduled to be the same day as our next meeting, is that right?
No, the next building committee meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, the building committee meeting.
I was confused.
Oh,
Okay. But we're trying to schedule a joint reuse committee meeting with whoever we can, just so we can all,
Yeah, I understand that, you know, at Reuse, we had talked about this before, and I think just to make it clear that the way that the Reuse, and I believe that the Board of Selectmen would like it to be is a joint meeting of Board of Selectmen, the Reuse, the School Committee, and the Planning Committee. I think that's how they would like it to happen.
it's going to be a crowded space,
Yes.
even if
So
there are no
is somebody
visitors.
working towards like scheduling that?
Well,
With all of those
I'm
committees?
asking that happen.
No one has approached me for a date, so.
I mean, that's all I'm
That's
thinking.
why I'm
Trying to get
volunteering
all of
dates.
those committees all together is,
Who's the
It's,
chair?
Jamie?
Jimmy Toll.
Yeah.
yeah, I can certainly understand the reasoning for having everybody all together, but that will take like
Act
you
of
know,
God.
yes, exactly, to get everybody in the same place, or, you know, a sufficient
date.
number of people, right, so I would be encouraged that dates begin to flow.
Right.
I know, I am anxiously awaiting hearing from Mr.
Well, another way to approach this, since the Reuse Committee is a committee appointed by the Board of Selectmen, is for me to request directly from the Board of Selectmen such a meeting.
Why don't I email Mr. Toll and see what we get? We'll try and do it that way.
Okay.
And maybe we can come up with something that way. Okay, transition and reconfiguration. We've added this recently to our agenda. Do we have an update?
We don't have any thing beyond what I reported last week, as this will be a regular ongoing item. We have a survey of staff that we're putting together in FIQ. We have this detailed plan that is in draft form that we want to start working with the faculty and staff, and then I will bring that to you for your review and additional input as well. But it's a fairly comprehensive plan with timelines that will take us to that very exciting transition into the new building and the reconfiguration of the district, so.
Okay. And Diversity Advisory Committee, it's probably time to
We have to-
put out a request for volunteers.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I can include that in the next superintendent's update as well as our special.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and topics for future discussion, we've scheduled a workshop for the 12th, the week from tomorrow, at TCP to talk about, not those two topics, actually, sorry.
Right.
It's the one-on-one computing and the process for coming up with a name for the new school buildings. So these will, once we get past that workshop, we'll schedule the workshop to deal with these other
That's at
issues.
6:30.
It's at 6:30 at TCP, room 13 on the 12th, and we'll have an agenda out
On Thursday?
on Thursday, early next
I will
week.
be probably 10 or 15 minutes late.
That's great, that's
If
fine.
my friends at the MBTA can actually do anything correct, which I doubt, so I'm banking on 10 or 15, more likely 45.
We'll be there.
It's commuter rail. And I did just publicly
Yep.
land-based them.
I heard it.
Deserved.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Collins seems to appear.